Om Sadashiva Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, so before beginning today's class, I thought I would just pick up the question which was asked in the last class regarding the destruction of the Karna Shariram. Does anybody remember the question?
Yes, it was. What happens to the Karana Sharira for a Jnani?
For a Jnani, what happens to Karna Shariram when he dies? Okay, like when he's alive, obviously his Karna Shariram is active. But we very often say that, the Jnani, when he dies, all the three bodies are destroyed. And a very good question was asked, saying that how come you say that bodies are destroyed when we know that matter can never be destroyed, right? So the answer I gave then was that, it's at certain point, we take Shastram as the Pramanam and we do not inquire any further. That's a valid answer. But I've had a few comments from people saying that surely there is a logical answer also. So I put up this logical answer to the group, but I thought I would also discuss it today. It was important. Now, what exactly is a Karna Sharira? What are its components?
Anatma.
It is Anatma. Fine. But what are they?
Ignorance.
Karma.
Ignorance. And?
Avidya and karma. Phala.
Well, the experience of a Karna Shariram is in what form?
Thoughts. Sushupti Avastha.
Sushupti Avastha. So what is the experience in Sushupti Avastha?
Ananda.
Ignorance and Ananda.
Ananda and Ajnanam. Right? Okay. So it stands to reason that Karna Shariram, Ananda portion we are right now not concerned with, right? We are concerned about the Ajnanam portion. So what is the function of the Karna Shariram? To reflect two things. One is Ananda and one is Ajnana. So Ananda portion let us not discuss. So the basic function of the Karna Shariram is the reflection of Ajnanam, because of which the Ajnani is there, and therefore there are desires, therefore there is karma, therefore there is the Sukshma Shariram born, therefore there is the Sthula Shariram born, and therefore there is the universe is born, so able to do all the karmas. So when a Jnani gets Jnanam, what gets destroyed?
The Shariratrayam.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We are saying Shariratrayam gets destroyed, but we are also saying, we have said times without number, Avyaktadini Bhutani Vyaktamadhyani Bharata. It only goes into Avyaktam, it only goes into Vyaktam state. There is no destruction of Maya ever possible. When you say
connection which gets destroyed.
But that was not the question. The question was not the connection gets destroyed. Question was what happens to Karma Sharira. So that is what I'm trying to say. That when Jnanam is obtained, when the person becomes a Jnani, the Ajnanam portion no longer remains. Right?
Yes.
Therefore, the Karna Shariram, which was reflecting Ajnanam, will no longer reflect Ajnana. And so when the Jnani dies, if you are looking at the Karma Shariram as an individual body, when the Jnani dies, the Karma Shariram's functionality of reflecting the Jnanam, of reflecting the Ajnanam is gone. Correct? Because he has got Jnanam. And therefore that Jnanam has destroyed the Ajnanam. Therefore the functionality of the Karma Shariram of reflecting Ajnanam has gone. Thus, what happens? That is like a seed which has been roasted. You roast a seed, what happens? It is no longer capable of sprouting. And therefore, this Karma Shariram, where the Ajnanam functionality has gone, is no longer capable of sprouting another Sukshma Sharira.
But the seed remains. But the seed
The
remains.
Karma Shariram remains, but in roasted form. Its functionality is gone. That is the only way you can say that, yes, the Karma Shariram is destroyed. Because when the seed has been roasted, what do you say? It is destroyed. Because it no longer can enable its functionality. Remember that Karma Shariram is nothing but Maya. And therefore, you cannot say that it is destroyed. So that idea has to be clearly understood. When we say destruction of Karma Shariram, you should not understand it as destruction because there can be no nashaha of Maya. Therefore, that remains, but no longer capable of giving a fruit. So that, remember that you cannot say that that same Karma Shariram will again, form the basis for another jiva. Why?
Because it's no longer
If it's a,
avidya.
if
is
it
no
is
longer functional.
nirbijam, yeah, if it's nirbijam, there cannot be another.
What is the other reason? Nirbijam and all fine. What is the other reason?
Because
What is
the ajnanam has gone.
Agreed. But why is it another reason why you cannot say that it will, that Karma Shariram which was belonging to Jiva X, who is now a Jnani, can be the seed for Jiva Y?
He has no
Because
No
he has,
karma phala
Punya
remaining.
yeah, he has
It,
no karma
it
phala.
has lost its ability to function.
It has lost its
Yeah.
ability to function. That is one reason.
Yeah.
Second reason is that if you say that that Karma Shariram can give rise to a new Jiva, you are saying that there is a Jiva being born.
Right.
Remember that Jivas are never born.
Ah.
Okay? Jivas are always anadi, always been there. So while the destruction of that is possible, the creation of another Karma Shariram which is capable of reflecting is not possible. I just wanted to make that clear. Any questions on that before we go to the next one?
Can I ask a quick question, please,
Please,
Ravi
Nagaraj.
ji?
Please, Nagaraj.
Ultimately, what we are doing currently is finishing off our Sanchita Karma. So now
Prarabdha
that
karma. Yeah, Sanchita karma can
Prarabdha
never be
Karma
finished.
as well as Sanchita Karma.
No, Sanchita karma can never be exhausted.
So in that case, suddenly I go from Ajnani state to Jnani state,
Correct.
and then I will never be reborn again. And as a result of that, I will never exhaust all my, even the Prarabdha Karma will not exhaust, and Sanchita also I will not exhaust.
Prarabdha is exhausted. Prarabdha will exhaust when the body dies. Sanchita
Okay.
will not exhaust.
And that is not needed to be exhausted.
No. You can never exhaust Sanchita because in every life you got millions of lives worth of Sanchita and you're adding more in every life, right? Sanchita can never be exhausted. So when you become a Jnani, what happens is this is the way it functions, that the Karma Shariram is no longer capable of generating a Sukshma Shariram and therefore you are not reborn. There is no you to be reborn.
Yeah.
So, Acharya ji, so can we take it that, the avyakt state or Maya per se is a pool, like we say it's a Karan Sharira, where the where any kind of karma is constantly recycled. And similarly, this process of birth and death keeps on going on. Is that what it is? Because from unmanifest to manifest and the jiva to be born, the karma balance always has to remain for the cycle of creation to go on and on. So it remains in
So there are
the
two
Maya.
statements you made. One is that karma balance is always there. That is true. Unless karma balance is there will never be the cycle, right? The second statement of recycling, what does it mean? Does it mean that, if my understanding is correct, does it mean that if I have passed away, then the Karana Shariram which remains has certain amount of karma left? Are you saying that that karma is passed on to another Karana Shariram?
If we consider it that way, yes, because the
No.
Karan Sharir by and large is not a spatial body, is it? It's not limited in space in the avyakt form.
Yes, but it's individual, right? If it's not individual, how will it maintain the individual record of karma?
So, but in avyakt state,
It is only avyakta, you can't see it, that is all. It doesn't mean it is. See, it is true that because of this difficulty of explanation, it is true that Shastra doesn't distinguish between the Vashti Karanam and Samashti Karanam. Okay, like
Yes.
if you look at Vivek Sudhamani, Shankara does not distinguish between Vashti Karana Shariram and Samashti Karana Shariram. But if your theory that the karma is fungible, that is not correct, for a very simple reason. Karta has to be bhokta. If a jnani number X, jnani say X, has become a jnani and got Videha Mukti, and you are saying that the karma in his Karana Shariram is being transposed to Karana Shariram B, then what you are saying is that B is going to be the bhokta of the karma of A, which is not correct. It violates the basic law that only the karta can be the bhokta.
Okay.
But what is your doubt? Your doubt is
No,
that how come the
essentially-
universe will keep on happening, right?
Yes, so there has to be, for my understanding, probably the entire avyakt Karan Sharir is a pool,
No.
which never exhausts. So from there,
No.
there is a
Idea
continuous
is very
process.
simple. You have to understand the meaning of the word eternal. Infinite. There are infinite number of karma sharirams. Infinite means what? Not finite. However many number of karma sharirams are, what they call rendered non-functional by jnanam, there will still remain karma sharirams. That is what is meant by infinite. The infinite is not very large number. Infinite means infinite. There is no counting at all. The more you count, the more there is.
Right, thank you.
Understanding infinite is very important in Shastra. Otherwise, things like how come, when all the jivas are exhausted, how come there are more jivas happening, all those questions come. That is why it's important to remember that it is infinite.
Thank you.
What happens to the Sanchita karma of a gap?
Of a jnani,
Yeah.
the Karana Shariram is lost functionality, right? So it remains in the Karana Shariram. Nothing happens to it.
Okay.
And for all practical purposes, it is destroyed because no more jiva can come out of that. There is no more bhokta.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, now we look at verse number 9. Let us chant that verse. This is chapter 9, verse 9. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri
Shri
Bhagavan
Bhagavan Uvacha.
न च मां तानि कर्माणि
न च मां
तानि कर्माणि
निबध्नन्ति धनञ्जय
मला तिकडे जायला पाहिजे.
उदासीनवदासीनम् असक्तं
तुम्ही लोक
तेषु कर्मसु
तेषु कर्मसु
Okay. So, hey Dhananjaya, hey Arjuna, tani karmani, those actions, namam nibhadnanti, do not bind me. And who am I? Asaktam, I am not involved, I am detached. Teshu karmasu, from those actions. And asinam udasinavat. So that word is udasinam asinam. So adi udasinam vat means, udasina means, what does udasa mean?
Udasin.
Don't say sad.
Indifferent.
Uninterested.
It's indifferent.
Udasina is indifferent, right? So in Sanskrit, it's indifferent, not sad. So udasinavat asinam. Asinam means I am seated, I remain. Udasinavat, like an indifferent person. Okay, so this is the basic literal translation. Let us see a little bit more in detail. It's an important verse. So, introducing this verse, Shankara says that when Krishna says Visrujami punah punaha, I create again and again and again. So creation is a karma. Somebody who does karma is bhokta. And here is Krishna admitting that not just one karma is doing, but punah punah punaha. And therefore, is he not a mahakarta? What is the implication of being a karta? You are a bhokta. So there is karma phalam, there is samsara. And therefore, this statement, aham visrajami punaha punaha, can be interpreted as saying that I, Ishvara, am a maha samsari. Right? So Krishna wants to say that this is not so. And therefore he says, hey Dhananjaya, hey Arjuna, tani karmani mam na nibhadnanti. All those actions, they do not bind me. Which actions are these? Tani karmani means which actions?
This actions of creation, maintenance.
Actions of srishti, sthiti and laya karmani. Right? All those actions. Now remember that all those actions, they result in what? They result in a lot of sukham, pleasure to many people. They result in a lot of dukham, pain to so many people. All these are the actions of Ishvara alone. And he says that even though these actions are taking place, and even though I am continuing to do karma, these actions, na devadnanti, they do not bind me at all. Why? Aham teshu karmasu asaktam. I am not identified with or attached to those actions. A very important point is being conveyed here. What is that? Karma does not create binding. Again, some very subtle point, not clearly stated, but we have to extract. Karma will never bind you. What binds?
My attitude and my approach towards attachment to the karma. And my
Attachment to the phala.
It's the fact that
Anybody
I
else?
am
Karma,
Give me
karma
one
phala
word.
asakti. Karma phala asakti.
Karma
It's the
phala
karma
asakti.
phalam.
What is it about karma which binds you?
It is the feeling that I am doing it. You own it.
Raga, Desha,
What
Ahankar.
is the Sanskrit word?
Kartrutva.
Mamakara,
Kartritvam. Okay. So karma will never bind you, but kartritvam will bind you. That is what is being conveyed over here. And therefore Krishna says, I need not stop actions because I have no kartrutvam at all. That abhimana with the karma, that I am the one who is doing karma, That is not there. So it's a message from Krishna to all of us that you have to do karma. And that is why continuously in the Gita he says that you have, as long as you've got a body, there is no question of not doing karma. So you have to do karma, but just understand that it is not karma which binds you, it is the ahankara mamakara which binds you. The feeling that I am the one who is doing the kartrutvam binds you. And therefore you should remain what? Udasinavat asinam. While doing karma, you should remain as though an indifferent person, right? Just like when you read in the newspapers about all the bombings in Palestine, you are what? Udasinavat asinam, right? You don't get immediately disturbed. You might get disturbed at a particular level, but it is not deep disturbance because there is no attachment at all. And in this assimilation, we should remember quite a few slokas, because Krishna has kept talking about this throughout, right? What are the slokas? Some of them I'll give you. So there is the third chapter, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartarham iti manyate. What does it mean? Prakrite kriyamanani gunaihi. The gunas of Prakriti, karmani sarvashaha, are the ones who do all the karmas. Which means what? Here, Prakriti gunaihi means the body. The gunas here means the body and the mind. They are the ones which do all the karmas. But what happens? Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The deluded person thinks that he is the one who is doing. Then, tattavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartante iti matvana sajjate. Gunas will definitely transact with the gunas, right? The body will definitely transact with the world. Knowing that, iti matvana sajjate, the wise person is not disturbed. Then there is a very famous one, karmanya karmaya pasyet akarmani cha karmaya sa buddhibhan manusheshu sayukta krishna karma krite. Fourth chapter. Then there's fifth chapter, naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyet tatpavitaha pashyan srinman sprishan jigran ashnan gachan swapanshwasan. And then there is again fifth chapter, navadvare puredehi naiva kurvanna karayan. What is the idea conveyed by all these verses? And these are not the only verses. There are many, many more in this, in the Gita. What is the idea conveyed? When I say I create, what am I doing? I am lending consciousness only. In fact, even the use of the verb lending is wrong. Because you cannot say that the sun lends a reflection to the mirror. Because it is the nature of the sun that if a mirror is present, it will get reflected. Similarly, it is the nature of, is my nature as Atma. Wherever an appropriate reflecting body is there, consciousness is reflected. And therefore, since I don't really do anything, I am not a karta at all. I am constantly involved in work, and yet asaktaha, I am not bound. And here one might think that this is Krishna saying that it's all right for Easwara. Maybe Easwara is not bound. What about me? So Shankara gives a note over here. He says, ataha, therefore, anyaha api. For others. Who are the others but Easwara? There are only two conscious beings in this universe. What is that? Easwara and
Atma.
conscious beings.
Jiva.
Jiva.
So only conscious beings are Easwara and Jiva. So when Shankara says anyaha api, for others also, he means not for Easwara only, but for Jiva also. This idea is important. What idea is important? Kartrutva abhimana abhavaha. Freedom from kartrutvam. That is the cause of moksha. Kartritra abhimana abhava is the cause of moksha, not just for Ishvara, but for Jiva also. And therefore, the idea conveyed is, do not ever think that by not doing karma, I am going to get moksha. You don't have to put efforts to be free from karma, but your effort should be to be free from kartrutvam, right? You can never really be free from karma. So during your young days, you'll be studying, then you will get married, then you will have children, you will be earning, then you retire and you think I'm going to have a great time, but you will find suddenly grandkids are there, and then you have to take the grandchild yoga class, dancing class, your judo class, karate class. It never ends. So you have to keep the body and the mind active. There is no choice because you've got a body and mind. Moksha doesn't mean that you have to let the body and the mind, degenerate. So you have to remember that activity, both physical and mental, is absolutely necessary for a healthy life. A healthy life is a privilege given to you. You can enjoy your life. But you have to work towards the idea that I am not the one who is doing all this. That it is the body-mind complex alone which does this. And so Shankara says that the one who has phalasangam, attachment to the fruits of the action, he is the one who is a mudaha and he is bound by karma. What karma? Which he himself does. And Shankara says very, very nicely, he is the cause of his own bondage, koshakaravat. The koshakara is what? A silkworm. What is the idea conveyed by using the silkworm as an example?
The cocoon is made by the silkworm itself, which actually binds it finally within the cocoon. Is that it? It's like
Well, I
creating
wouldn't
my
say
own.
binds it within the cocoon. The idea is correct. The silkworm creates a cocoon.
Yeah.
And how do you get silk?
It can be a cruel way of boiling the silkworms.
You dump the silkworm in boiling water.
In hot water.
So
Or
it dies.
ahimsa silk is also there now. But
So it dies. So he's saying the silkworm is killed by its own actions. That is what the idea is. And therefore this Ajnani, what does he do? He binds himself, he kills himself by his attachment to his own actions. Not by karma, but by kartrutva. If the silkworm did not have kartrutvam, what would it do? It would drop the cocoon the moment it made it and go away. But it doesn't do that. Okay. Now we look at the 10th verse. We'll chant. Maya dakshena prakritihi Suyate sacharacharam Hetunanena kaunteya Jagat viparivartate All right. So all very beautiful verses. So here he says, Maya adhyakshena. Adhyaksha means the presiding person. So Maya adhyakshena, in my presence, with me as the president, the presiding person. What happens? Prakritihi suyate. Prakritihi, which is Maya, suyate, creates what? Chara sa acharam. All beings, chara and acharam, moving and unmoving, sthavara jangamam, it creates. And anena hetuna, because of that reason alone, jagat viparivartate, the universe functions, the universe revolves. Okay. So now if you see in the 8th verse, what had Krishna said? He had said that I create. Aham visrajami punah punaha. Now he says, actually, you have to refine that statement because prakriti suyate. I don't create. It is Maya which creates. right? This language of contradiction he has used earlier also. Asya kartaram apimam vidhi akartaram avyayam. Fourth chapter, in case we have forgotten. Okay. Now the question is Bhagavan, is Ishvara karta or akarta? If he is karta, how can he claim he is akarta? If he is akarta, how can he claim he is creating? So basically, logically, there are two opposite attributes, kartrutvam and akartrutvam. The status of being a creator, kartrutvam. Akartrutvam, status of not being a creator. How can two opposing attributes exist in the same locus? Okay, so you will find these contradictions again and again coming up, and therefore one should be able to use one's intellect, which has by now been trained, hopefully, to reconcile these contradictions. How do we reconcile? Ishvara is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. Can Atma act?
No.
No, not at all.
Can Anatma act?
Yes.
Yes, constantly.
With the help of Atma.
Only
In the presence of
You have
Atma.
to be careful. Atma cannot act because it is akarta. Anatma cannot act because it is jada, inert. And therefore,
Exactly.
the mixture alone can act. What is a mixture? The mixture is reflected
Atman.
consciousness. There is a OC, there is a RM. OC cannot act because it is akarta by nature. RM cannot act because it is anatma, it is inert by nature. The mixture is reflected consciousness. That mixture alone can act. So when Krishna says that I am karta, he is referring from the standpoint of Ishvara. That is Maya plus Brahman. Consciousness being reflected in Maya, he is karta. But when he says he is akarta, he is talking from the Brahman viewpoint, which is a non-doer. This understanding should be clear. From Vyavaharika Drishti, Ishvara is karta. From Paramarthika Drishti, Ishvara is not a karta, he is akarta. And so he says, Maya adhyakshena. In my presence, adhyaksham here is sakshi, the witness. With me as a witness. And what is Maya over here? Maya is pure consciousness. Shankara defines Maya as Drishimattra Swarupena, the pure consciousness principle which is unchanging in nature. So the Nirvikara nature, Nirvikara Swarupam of Ishvara is Maya over here. Maya here is not the RC. Maya here is the OC part of it. So he is saying Maya Adhyakshena means with OC part of me as witness. What happens? I am the consciousness, I am the enabler, the Samanya Karanam I am. Right? Like electricity is the Samanya Karanam for the fan spinning, but the spinning of the fan is because it is designed like that. The instrumental design is Vishesha Karanam. Electricity is only the Samanya Karanam. In case of a bulb, electricity remains as Samanya Karanam. The design of the bulb changes, so it doesn't spin, it gives light. And therefore, with this consciousness principle being the Samanya Karanam, a sattvic brain will do sattvic activities, will meditate. A rajasic mind will be very active, will do rajasic activities. A tamasic mind can do criminal action or can be a totally not doing anything. So this Maya, this higher nature, he is the enabler. He is not the doer, he is a catalyst. Things happen in his presence, right? And then Prakriti evolves. Prakriti suyate. Suyate means utpadayati, produces, projects, right? And Prakriti means what? Prakriti here is Maya, which is Trigunatmika. Maya consisting of three gunas, which is what? Nothing but avidya itself. So Maya, which is avidya, mula avidya, that Maya, suyate, produces, projects, evolves into, transforms into what? Tacharacharam jagat. The entire moving and unmoving world, it transforms into. The avyakta Maya, the invisible Maya, it evolves, it transforms into the visible, moving things, which is jivas, and the non-moving ones, which is the infrastructure of the world, the mountains, etc. In short, the whole of creation, consisting of moving and non-moving, is born from Maya alone. Okay. Now, you might say, where did Shankara come up with all these ideas? Right? So Shankara thinks that, you shouldn't think that he is dreaming up all these ideas. So he quotes Shruti. So we have not done this particular Upanishad, which we will do in due course. It's called Shweta Ashvatara Upanishad. Shwetoshvatara Upanishad. Okay. So he quotes from there, and I'll read out to you the quote and I'll explain. So he says, for those who are interested, it is this 6th chapter, 11th mantra of the Shweta Ashvatara Upanishad. So, Eko Devaha, one Lord, that one non-dual Lord, Gudaha, is hidden, where? Sarva Bhuteshu, in all the living beings. And not only that, Sarva Vyapi is all pervading, and Sarva Bhutantar Atma, he is the very essence of all beings. He is the very substance of all beings. And Sarva Bhuta Adhivasaha is resident in all the beings. He is the Adhishthanam, the substratum of all jivas. Not only that, Karma Adhyaksha he is the Karma Phala Data, the witness of all actions at Samashti level. And this is one of those beautiful mantras which talks about Sarva Bhuta Adhivasa as the Karma Sakshi, Karma Phaladata. At the same time, it says Sakshi also. At the Vyashti level, he is the witness consciousness, the Sakshi in the heart. And what is that finally? Chetaha, consciousness principle, Kevalo Nirgunaschaha. He is absolutely free from attributes. Okay, it's a very beautiful definition, which basically means what? That same consciousness principle is the one who is resident as Karma Phaladata, as well as he is the individual witness principle also. He is there everywhere. Whether it is Samashti level, Vyashti level, it is there. And then he goes, then the second line is there, Anena Hetuna, because of that reason. What reason? Of my being the Sakshi, my being the Karma Phaladata, Jagat Viparivartate. The entire universe revolves. So everything revolves here has to be taken as everything is functioning, everything is in motion, all the planets are moving, the universe is expanding, supernovas are happening, black holes are being formed, entire galaxies are being swallowed, and whole suns and planets are being destroyed. Because of what? Anena Hetuna. Because of my presence alone. This is at Samashti level. And we have to extract from this to the Vyashti level also. So what is the understanding at the Vyashti level? All the emotions which rise in my mind, we think that they are random, right? Suddenly you're happy, suddenly some sad thought has come. You think it's all random, but it is not. You think they are random. Why? Because you don't see the chain which connects the emotions to the vasanas. All of us have non-activated vasanas, impressions in our mind. There is some trigger and the vasana gets converted into vritti, thought. So happy thought comes, sad thought comes, angry thought comes. This thread, what activates it? What activates a particular vasana we are not aware of? Shastra says that activation happens according to your prarabdha karma. And how does prarabdha function? Maya Adhyakshena, in my presence as Karma Phaladata. Right? Another very important idea to be extracted from here, we are saying that vasanas will be triggered into thoughts. Where are thoughts? In your mind. And the triggering of the vasanas is how? Because of prarabdha karma. What is a prarabdha karma? You don't know. You have no control. Which means what? That how your mind is finally going to behave, you have no control at all. Or at least not total control. Do you agree? Very important idea. So I'll come to why I'm saying that.
Yes.
No, but you first, sometime back, you explained that it's the first thought only, which uh, if you curb it there and don't
Correct.
keep thinking about it, then you can.
Absolutely. But if the thought is strong enough, will it disturb your mind or not?
It will.
There are
Yes,
thoughts sometimes which are very strong, which will disturb your mind. And all your efforts, all the jnana which you have, all the practice which you have, all the sadhana which you have, may not be sufficient to take away the disturbance.
Of course it happens.
Right? What is being said? Krishna is saying that remember that even when you get moksha, when you acquire jnanam and become a jnani, your mind is still there. Your prarabdha is still there. Your vasanas are still there. You will find that at times you will have unhealthy thoughts coming into the mind. Sometimes you will find that the unhealthy trigger is so strong that all your jnanam will not be able to prevent the disturbance of the mind. Right? And therefore, the bottom line is what? Moksha does not mean total control over the mind. Moksha does not mean the jnani will never get disturbed. Moksha is the understanding that I am not the mind. And therefore, when the mind can get disturbed, I have to cling on to my status as Brahman and say that it is the mind which is getting disturbed. I am not getting disturbed. And that's why Manobuddhi Hankara Chittani Naham. I am not the mind, I am not the buddhi, I am not the hankara, I am not the chitta either. What am I?
Chidananda Rupa Shiva.
Ananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am Brahman alone. So the understanding is mind is a mithya vastu. It is superimposed upon me. And a superimposed mind can never touch me. Just like your shadow is superimposed upon you. A shadow, even if somebody shoots at your shadow or knifes your shadow, you are not going to be affected. So that mithya mind will have dvesha, the mithya mind will have raga. But I, who am not the mind, I don't have any dvesha, I don't have any raga at all. So always remember that mind is anatma. Anatma is subject to being troubled by other anatma. Right? So when your partner is yelling at you, you have to think of it how one anatma is yelling at another anatma. You know? But I Brahman, I am the witness of both the yelling. And the one who's yelling also I am witnessing. The one who's receiving the yelling also I am witnessing. Remember, the anatma is always subject to biochemical changes, hormonal changes, neurological changes, is always changing. You can never have anatma which is free from all these changes. You cannot fight that biochemistry. Fighting biochemistry is always going to end up in a loss for you. It's a losing battle. What you have to remember is the battle is not mine. What you remember is, I mean, the Beatles said that once upon a time in a very nice little, I don't know how many of you have, heard Beatles. They are probably not very popular now, but they had a very nice song. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard this song. It's a very beautiful song.
Yeah.
It
Yes.
expresses this whole
Remember.
idea that just let it go. This too shall pass. Just let it go. And that is what is being conveyed here. Do that. Don't fight your mind. Don't fight your body. Exercise a reasonable level of control. But do not think ever that you can have total control over the mind or the body. It's not necessary because you are neither of them. Right? Now Shankara takes up Viparivartate, revolves. Right? And he says, how do you explain this word? So he is giving an example to explain, a few examples. So he says, Aham midam bhokshye, I am experiencing this. When you say that, it means viparivartate. The world is revolving, the world is functioning, the mind is functioning, body is functioning. Aham pashyami, I see this. Mind is functioning, eyes are functioning. Aham shrunomi, I am hearing this. Ears are functioning. Aham sukham anubhavami, I am experiencing happiness. Mind is functioning. Dukham anubhavami, I am experiencing sorrow. And I am doing this for that purpose. I am doing this for this purpose. I am knowing this. All these, he says, is representing what? This revolving, this functioning of the world. And he says, remember that everything which is happening in Atma alone. Nothing is beyond Chaitanya. Everything happens in Atma alone. Where is that Atma? That Atma is available in your heart. Parame Vyoman. So he quotes from the Veda. Yo asya adhyaksha parame vyoman. So that is not Upanishad, something called a Taittiriya Brahmanam. That adhyaksha, that governing principle, that is in your heart only. And again, by saying this, Shankara is conveying an extremely important idea. There is existence. Outside you, you can recognize existence, right? You can recognize the body, you can recognize other people's body. But inside you, what can you recognize? You can recognize only chit, consciousness. And therefore, the idea being conveyed is that that existence principle which you recognize outside as Brahman, that same existence principle you can recognize inside also as consciousness principle. And therefore, that existence is nothing but consciousness. Your existence outside is recognizable inside, but as consciousness. So, sadeva chit, chideva sat. Existence is nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is nothing but existence. Very interesting analysis. Okay. And of course, in this, you might ask, okay, all this is great. But who is the creation for? What is this creation for? Does it have a purpose? What are the normal answers we give?
To
Bhagwan
extend
ka
our
leela.
karmas. No,
Yes, to exhaust the karmas.
karmas.
Yes. So for whom is the creation?
For the jivas.
Okay, fine. So that is the normal answer we get. So the normal answer is what? The creation is for the jiva, so he can exhaust his prarabdha. The Shankara says it is not meant for jiva. Why? Because jiva himself is what?
It is an atma. It is for consciousness to experience consciousness.
Atma, anatma.
No, jivo brahmaiva na paraha. Never forget. Jiva is nothing but Brahman. And therefore Shankara says that you cannot say that the creation is for jiva because jiva is Brahman. You cannot say creation is for Brahman. Why? Brahman doesn't need creation. He is Purnaha. Then the question is, for whom is this question? For whom is this creation? And Shankara says very nicely, this question of for whom is this Srishti created, it does not have an answer at all.
Because it is mitha.
Because Brahma has no causation.
Even if it is mithya, it is created, right? He's saying that this Srishti, the question of who is this creation meant for? Why has this creation been created? He says there is no answer to that because he says there is no Srishti at all. When there is no Srishti, where is the question of where has the Srishti come from and for what purpose is this Srishti? Why is there no Srishti? Because the entire creation is a product of Ajnanam. And he quotes Krishna himself. Where does he quote? Ajnanena avratam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Ajnanam has covered your jnanam and that is why you are deluded. And this delusion of yours, you think it is creation. So there is no Srishti at all. And if there is no Srishti at all, how can you ask who created the Srishti? Where did it come from? Who is it for? The very questions are illogical. There is no Srishti at all. And this basically is something we will do at a much later stage. This is the highest teaching of Vedanta. It is called Ajatavada. The theory that there is no world at all, there is no creation at all. And this you will find in Mandukya Upanishad. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Small question, Raviji.
Please, Nagaraj.
In the two verses before,
yeah,
we said Avasham. So the Easwaran
helplessly
is creating the universe.
Yes.
Helplessly.
Helplessly.
And here, next verse, we said Maya adhyakshena prakritihi sacharacharam suyate.
Yes.
Means in my under my supervision, Prakriti will create the whole universe.
Correct.
So effectively here we are saying that Paramatma is not Sarva Shakta.
No. When you say Paramatma as Ishvara, remember that Prakriti is the Shakti of Ishvara. Prakriti is not an independent entity. Prakriti is Shakti of Brahman, of Ishvara. And using that Shakti, Ishvara creates. It's like a painter. Using your painting talent, you create a painting. That painting talent cannot exist outside you. That's why you call yourself a painter.
So, Acharya, I think it's a little technical, but we say that Maya is avidya. If we, change it, then Maya is actually ignorance. And consciousness principle is actually knowledge. If we take it from that standpoint, my understanding.
Avidya is a technical term, and you say when you talk of Maya for the purpose of creation, you call it Mula Vidya. Mula Vidya, the very basis of ignorance. It's not Avidya itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Raviji.
Okay. All right. I know these are all very, very, what you call, so normally in a Moolam class, we don't go into this kind of detail. But this is basically a class meant for advanced students. And therefore, we are borrowing heavily from Shankara. So you will find that every, class will leave you grasping with some concept. So I would suggest that you take it as an opportunity, think about it. Because by the time you finish the Geeta with this Shankara Bhashyam as a base, you will find that after that, Upanishads are, a breeze. All the concepts have been covered. Otherwise, normally these concepts you would necessarily have to cover in Upanishads. But here, since you are covering here, there you will find that it will be a repetition, it will be a revision for you. Okay. So with this, we'll stop. Purnamadam Purnamidam
Purnamadam Purnamidam
Purnamudachyate Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamadaya
Purnamevavashyate Om Shanti
Om
Shanti
Shanti.
Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Tat Sat.
Thank you,
Om Namah
Acharya.
Thank you,
Shivaya.
Acharya ji.
Thank you, Acharya ji.